Welcome to my live stream live from Bangkok. In today's Red Pill news, the top story is this Instagram model who has gone viral for rejecting a man, a handsome man, because he wasn't going to spend enough money on the first date with her. Now, I always recommend that the first date should have a limit of $10 because that's good enough to buy a girl a drink and get to know her. But this gentleman was actually going to take her out to a full dinner, but that wasn't good enough. And, call me old fashioned. But when I was a little boy, when a woman required a financial compensation for her company that she is providing, we used to call those women, mm, forgot the word, but I'm sure it will come back to me. Good thing I got this itch. So, yeah, this is because I used a good but cheap hoe. Well, now, as you can see from this Instagram post that she shamelessly posted for everybody, he invited her to this Lau Pa Sat night market in Singapore. And by the way, the night markets are one of the best places to go out on a date, and this is one of them. We have tons of them here in Thailand. It is a great place. There's live music, there's food, there's entertainment, there's usually animals and the night market. I mean, it's just so many cool things that you can do there. It's great for a date, not a first date. The first date should absolutely be just a drink. Now, I have taken girls to night market for a drink because they have little, bars there. We can get an alcoholic drink. I mean, you can literally have anything at those night markets. So now, strongly recommend. I know a lot of places in the world don't really have them, but just so you know what we're talking about, when she posted this, she essentially was talking how this wasn't good enough, right? And she basically told the guy to screw off. Now, his reply we also going to review, in just a second. But you're probably wondering, but Alex, this Instagram model who rejected this guy because he wasn't going to spend enough on the first date, with such high standards, is she a classy lady who deserves the finest things in life? Well, all we have to do to answer that question is to take a look at her Instagram account, and this is what we'll see. This is her posing on a Lamborghini she doesn't own, with her tongue sticking out, the pierced tongue like a hoe with her legs spread. Here, her twerking half naked in public, because that's what a classy lady would. And here's her trying to figure out how to use a chair while sticking her ass up in the air. So, yeah, why wouldn't any guy want to hire? I mean, date this girl, I wonder. And gentlemen, uh, I don't think a lot of men realize this, but just like women have the T app and the Facebook groups to talk amongst each other about which men they should not date, we also have one of those apps as well. It's called Instagram. That's right. Before you ask a girl what kind of food she likes, you always should ask her for her Instagram, because that's where you will see all of the red flags that you need to see. Is she a hoe? Is she addicted to attention and validation by posing on random cars or bikini pictures? Does she have tattoos? Does she have too many male friends? Is she posing with an expensive Louis Vuitton purse? All of that is free on Instagram. Download it today, because nothing will tell you the truth about the woman than that. And as I always recommend, don't listen to women when they talk about themselves, with their words or with their text. Always look at their Instagram. This is where, for some reason, they're shamelessly will post everything about themselves, every little detail that normally, women would be ashamed to say. It's all there. Now, because it's gone viral, she's got interviewed by, I think, a bunch of different publications, and she, by the way, proudly posted it on, linked to them from her social media, because I don't think she realizes that She might have gained some followers, the simps who will give her money and attention, the drugs that she is now addicted to. But in one of the interviews, she said this, you know, uh, in this conversation, if this conversation encourages even a few women to stop settling for less than the effort they deserve, then I'm glad it went viral. Now, notice the keywords of a modern woman, right? Settling. Now, to me, it's kind of funny that a prostitute is, oh, I remember the word, the prostitute essentially thinks that she is settling. Now, I get it. If you want to negotiate the best price for your services with a John, that is absolutely good business, I guess. But it's funny how these women actually think that they're settling for a man. Because, don't forget, the first dates are all about a woman essentially auditioning for a man to see if this man wants to take care of her and their future children if they want to have some for the rest of her life. So this is always an addition, and the man should always be the prize because that's kind of a big deal to basically be taken care of as an adult like a child for the rest of your life. Now, a lot of men, including myself, are happy to do that as long as we are not settling. Now, of course, the other word is deserve. Now, I don't like this word when it's applied to men. Or this is a very dangerous word because there's a lot of people who work very hard and deserve a lot of technically things that they don't get. So the reality is reality, and sometimes we don't really get what we think we deserve. But these are the key words: how modern women gaslight themselves into thinking that they're better than they really are. And I picked another picture, as you can see, where she has a look of a whore with her boobs hanging out in your face. Now, don't get me wrong. This type of women absolutely get bunch of simps to give them attention, validation, and money, right? This is essentially the whole problem. The problem is not really women like her, right? The problem is that there are men who are encouraging these women to be women like her. Now, this very guy who she basically said that, oh, you're taking me to a night market, which again, he was already going to spend way too much money on her, right? Way too much money. She said that's not good enough. And instead of saying, fuck off, you little fucking hoe, oh, yeah, that's right, a cheap hoe, he basically said, "Oh yeah, well, my restaurant pick weren't good enough for you, sweetheart." Now he did also, from what she posted later, offer two more choices, and she still rejected them. Right? This is a simp, and essentially, this is the only type of a man who would go for a girl like this nowadays, because the only correct response to that is to just block her. You don't even have to say goodbye. She knows. She knows. And of course, she will think, oh, this cheap guy, she'll think that while she's in her 20s and maybe in her 30s, but sooner or later, she'll realize she fucked up. Her price for her whole services were too high. But this is a simp who would do that. And by the way, she is great. Look, she's now selling t-shirts on her Instagram. So if you're a hoe who wants to let everybody know that you're a hoe, you can pay money to this hoe to be a hoe. So excellent idea. You gotta give it to them. These girls sure know how to make money. You know what I mean? They will not make good wives or good girlfriends or good mothers or even good people most of the time, but they know how to make money. Now, by the way, when you see a picture like this, gentlemen, a woman who is one shoving her boobs in her face and pierced tongue, which we all know why women pierce tongues, right? Is when they don't know how to get the job done in the first place without any extra tools. In this type of outfit with her legs spread, by the way, and that had to be cut off. With anything that's expensive, whether it's a expensive restaurant that she is at, or expensive purse she's holding, or this 2 million Lamborghini that doesn't belong to her that she's sitting on, you have to run. This is where the woman is saying you're hiring a very expensive subscription prostitute. And I don't have a problem, gentlemen, if you want to pay for any types of services out there, okay? But don't waste your money and time. You know what I mean? So now, by the way, she's not even really good at Instagramming because she should have picked a better looking card, a red or yellow, and have a much better background. But with AI, I fixed it for her. So here, sweetheart, you can use this image to promote your services for men like that to make even more money. See, I'm helping hoes to do stuff with AI. So now, let me also tell you guys the theory that I have, that I don't really even think there is this theory here. Um, she is definitely a good looking girl, right? There's one thing. And by the way, she doesn't have tattoos, which I was surprised. I'm sure she'll get some, or maybe the reason she doesn't is because she's allergic. You could see that her friend filming her shaking, her ass into the camera has tattoos. Usually, a lot of times you can judge a girl by the type of women she's with. So that's surprising, but she is a good looking girl, right? Uh, I unfortunately, and I've brought this sad news to you, many times now. If you want to date a good looking girl, we're talking about eight and above, you're out of luck. Even in the most remote villages out there in the world, or developing or third world countries, every good looking girl knows she's good looking, and she knows there will be Western simps and beta males sending her not just attention, that's for sure, but also money. I have visited those remote villages. I live here in Thailand. We have them here. I just went to Africa and visited remote villages, and I have met those girls in those remote villages who have dudes in America and Europe, France, Britain are usually the simpiest of the countries, sending her money, even though these guys are not screwing her, probably will never see her, and if they do, for their 2 week vacation, and just pumping the money and attention and validation into them. These girls are having a time of their life, because even the little bit of money that these dudes send, and these girls never have just one, right? It is more than enough to live a pretty good life without having to work like the rest of her brothers and sisters and fellow citizens, because you know you can live in those villages. You can live on like $400 or $500 a month, well, and I mean well. So it doesn't matter where the girl is in the world. The result is going to be the same. All of these women are already sold out. And if you, for some reason, find one that maybe, she got married out of high school and she doesn't really know how, amazing her life could be with all the simps around, and she married a good man and ended up having a divorce, and she just realizing she's been preserved in a time capsule, don't worry. Even if you get her at that right moment, the reality, the society, the culture, the social media, all of that will swallow her whole, and she will become one, because it is impossible. This is why, when I date women here in Thailand, I pretty much only date women who don't speak English, because that's kind of the only way to prevent these women from being influenced, at least at a higher speed, from the Western cultures, and from dating a foreigner before me, because every girl who's dated a foreigner before I got to her has already been damaged. And not only these girls that get damaged by these foreigners online, but when these losers come here, they are the worst. They're the simpiest, biggest losers and beta males, and they simp like there is no tomorrow, even though you don't have to. There's very few good foreigners here. There's tons of pretty Thai women, and that's how it is. It was in Kenya. There was pretty much no foreigners or even Kenyan men who could afford a family, and tons of beautiful black women. Still, the attitude is the same. If they've dated a foreigner, if they speak English, that's it. Ruined. So that's why I'm actually stuck around here in Thailand and didn't end up going to Philippines. Though I Philippines is just not a livable place for me in terms of just having standard of life, and in terms of healthcare and crime rates and so forth. But here, when I do date women who don't speak English, I feel that they're protected, and the difference is just day and night. I mean, when I even talk but go out with Thai women who do speak English, which I do try to avoid that, and then versus women who don't speak English, it's the difference is day to night. The ones who don't speak English, good number of them still, are still submissive, kind, polite, shy, all of those things, like cooking and cleaning, taking care of a man, feminine, all of those things. But I have to say that the Western hoe and feminist culture is creeping inside the protective walls. I have met women who don't speak a word of English, but are already acting like a Western woman. I mean, still a long way to go, but that still happens all the time here. So, unfortunately, gentlemen, it is the reality. My advice to you is this, and this is something I'm going to follow if I decide to pursue a relationship, which, living here in Thailand makes you think about whether a relationship and marriage and taking care of a girl forever is even the best bet. My life dating several women at the same time, but also having all of my pretty much money and time, kept for me and with me, you know, it's it's not a bad lifestyle, I have to admit. So, but if I was to decide to, go ahead and commit to a long-term relationship and marriage, I would pick a girl who is a 6 or a 7 and what I would call upgradable, right? She's, a little above average looking, cute, which is great, which is still above average looking, right? But upgradable means that, if I buy her a gym membership and show her a few YouTube videos, how to do makeup, buy her, a couple of pair of heels, teach her how to do, hair a little better, uh, then you know what? She's now a 7 or an 8, which I say is way, way, way good enough, I would say, for sure, in terms of looks, for a long-term relationship. And it's just as the I'm living in reality, and I'm also older now. I know that all those feminine, submissive, and traditional traits in a woman are much more important than what I used to do, which was, I gotta walk. If I walk into a room, the girl in my hand has to be just turn heads. So the man, so I look like the man. And I did. And I actually was able to find women who are gorgeous looking, but also amazing, submissive, and traditional women. But that model has been discontinued. That just it's not something you're going to find in the real world, in the wild. And so don't even waste your time. So either join those men who are just walking away and deciding that, what, I'm not dating women. If I need my basic needs met, I will spend a little bit of money and take care of that. Or there's Pornhub or whatever, and I'm good. I just don't want to date women anymore. And or you can come here to Thailand or any other country that still has a relatively traditional family oriented culture. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you go. Just do no longer wish, whether you've done this before or not, that you can end up with a gorgeous girl who's also going to be all of those things. To me, those traits are much more important than gorgeous looks. I think a girl who's just like above average looking is more than enough for me. And I have to admit that here in Thailand and in many of these Southeast Asian countries, I mainly see two types of couples, right? Because of this. Either you see an ugly, fat, old dude with a really good looking girl, still with tattoos and dressed like a hoe, because this is, what I call a subscription prostitution. It's very common everywhere in the world, including America. Or when I see like a genuine couples of, a foreign man who came here and got together and got married, or in a long distance long di- long the word escapes me. It's the second word that escaped me today. Long-term relationship. A lot of times it's a foreigner with money, decent looking, a lot of times tall, even though I just did a video how that doesn't matter, gentlemen, with a very average, very basic Thai girl, where you go like, whoa, like really? Really, out of all women, and yet, I understand she may not be that great looking, and some guys do like specifically Asian women, and I understand that she is probably a great wife. She's probably a great mother, or just takes care of him and all of that stuff. Though, again, there's an exception. I have seen some good-looking rich dudes here, who are with very basic, average-looking women, and yet these women are still fucking useless, and the guy still simps for them here. That just breaks my heart. That is fucking breaks my fucking heart, because these dudes have no self-respect, no self-esteem, just complete beta males. Just balls are completely gone. They're carrying these girls' purses. They're, buying these girls food all the time, even though these women are not fucking cooking for them. Like the basic thing that a Thai girl would do. If you meet a Thai girl here, and one of the first things she doesn't ask you that if she can cook some food for you, fucking run for the hills. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? So yeah, it is getting here as well. So the sooner you get here, gentlemen, the better, because even the most amazing women here are being converted, if you will, just like what happened in America and Europe. So if you want to come here, this probably would be the best time. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back. I know. Well, we'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Daily Red Pill News. I actually haven't picked the story yet. There's plenty. Like I've already have every day picked out. There's always a story. I'm trying to keep the stories a little bit closer to like dating now, rather than just like legal man's rights. But I will cover those stories. I will continue covering those stories for sure as well. So I will see you tomorrow at the same time, which is noon here in Bangkok. Usually ends up being about 11 p.m. in California, but I always post this in reruns, so you can check that out as well. All right, until then, I will see you guys tomorrow. If you want to ditch modern women and move abroad for more traditional relationships, go to themillionmanproject.com, take my most comprehensive course, and change your life.